I want to give you this for free. And, you know, I always say, I'll serve this one up. And I hope you take this with you out today and for the rest of your life. You know, I started a YouTube channel and there were no subscribers. I did a Facebook Live thing and nobody showed up. And I never thought about having 188 people. And I know some of these live shows have 288 people or whatever they have. And I never really thought, because I don't think of you as a number. Okay? Because you're real people with real problems and real aspirations, just like me. You have feelings, you have problems, you have, right, challenges. Some of you hate your job. Some of you enjoy your job, but you want a better job. Some of you, you know, your industry's been blitzed by the pandemic. Everybody's got their own issues. And I was at a conference once. It was a training seminar, basically, in 2016. And I was starting to put videos out on my YouTube channel. And I was sitting there in the audience, and there was about 800 people in the room. And I was sitting kind of 2/3 of the way back, because that's, you know, basically they were filling in from the front, and that's when I got there. And I was learning about, you know, becoming a trainer like this. And I was taking, you know, some lessons from somebody who was dang good at it. And there was a woman in the audience, and she said, you raised her hand, handed her a microphone, and she said, you know, it's really deflating when I put a YouTube video together and only 100 people watch it. And he was listening. He jumps off the stage, walks down the stairs, goes out into the conference area, and walks down the center aisle. And he goes about, you know, I don't know, 10 rows in or whatever it was. And he said, would everybody in these front rows stand up? And they all stood up. And he looked at the woman and he said, that's what 100 people look. That's what 100 people looks like. So if you guys don't think that sending it to your community of 100 people matters, I'm telling you it does. You cannot believe how much people's lives will change when you do these things. But if you think small, if you're afraid to start something because no one's watching it, you're depriving this world. You really are. You really are. I'll never forget what that 100 people look like. I won't. Okay, this one gets me a little choked up, but I'm telling you, it matters. It matters. You need to not think small, and you need to not be afraid to start small, because if you're afraid to start small, you're listening to the wrong part of your ego. Okay, so do it. Do it. Don't worry about how you look, and share it, and share your ideas. Share the stuff. Share my stuff. Share your stuff. The world needs it. They do. 100 people. Believe me. All right, where was I? Oh, honey, wait, come here, please. No, come here. Here.
He's saying goodbye.
What? Give me a hug. Okay. All right, I'll see you. Love you. Okay. All right. Wait, can I, side note here. I just got done talking about the job search boot camp and leadership stuff, productivity stuff. Wisdom is expensive, right? It is. Wisdom is expensive because I had to learn that. And everything that you're going to go through in your life, you're going to have to learn, right? And it's going to be painful because no education is free, right? There's no scholarships in real life. You got to pay full freight. But you know, one thing that isn't expensive that we all seem to discard is perspective. And every time my wife is going to leave the house, I stand up and I give her a hug and a kiss, because there's no way I'm letting her leave, because I have no idea what's going to happen to me or her, or we just never know when the next moment is going to smash us. But we lose sight of that often, right? So perspective is around us every day. It's with us all the time. But if we're not going to pay attention to it, we're going to lose sight of that. I don't want you to do that. Okay, I really don't. I talked the other day about this, about the shows, and that the 5 minutes before every single show that I do, whether it's public or private, that I think about you. I think about the fact that God brought you to me. You need my help. This is important. I get to teach you, right? Through the camera. I know you're out there. I can see you in the chat, right? I know you respond to the comments and all that good stuff. That is an absolute miracle. I am never going to let that become common to me, ever, right? People always say, well, how could you answer the same questions every week? I don't know. Somebody found me this week. They have this question right now for them. Okay, they haven't watched my 8,000 videos, right? So I hope you take that lesson with you. And wherever you go today, that you remember that. Wisdom's expensive. Perspective is cheap. Don't lose it. Okay, because it's easy to lose. People, you got to remember this. And as a total side, change is never a function of ability. Improvement is never a function of ability. It is a function of emotion, right? It is a function of drive. It is a function of reason, okay? Given enough time, if your reasons are solid enough, if the necessity is there, you'll do it. If it isn't, you won't. What do I also say to you? Anytime you fail at something or you didn't reach your goal, the only question you need to ask yourself is, what was I unwilling to do? Right? I did not have solid enough reasons that caused me to reach a stopping point. Right? I didn't want to give that up. I didn't want to give up my life of ease. I didn't want to take on the hardship. I was nervous. I didn't want to take the loan out. I didn't want to go into debt. I didn't want to spend the 7 years in school. I didn't want to whatever. There was something that you weren't willing to do. That's it. Figure out what that is. Figure out if you're willing to get through it. You'll be fine. This is going to sound super obvious after I say it. It'll sound super obvious after I say it and be like, duh. But I want you to think about, do you actually ever think about this day in and day out? But when it comes to yourself, when you look at you, you are always a whip, okay? What do I mean? You're always work in progress, right? Except you don't think about yourself that way, and you don't think about me that way. So what do I mean? Just as an example. All right, so I sit here today in front of you, right? Some of you might have just found me this morning. Some of you might be following me for a few years. But I look to you like finished product, right? Here he is. He's giving you a talk on his beliefs and so on. And I look like a finished product. And even what I'm presenting to you looks like a finished product. But nothing could be further from the truth, right? I am constantly in a state of change and evolution. And whenever we create something in our lives, as we go through the creation of what we want to accomplish or what we want to tackle, I have news for you. The masterpiece never looks like a masterpiece when you're in the middle of it, right? The surgeon, as she stands over the patient whose tummy she has ripped open, looking down, that masterpiece doesn't look like a masterpiece during the middle of the operation, right? It isn't until the great big smile on the patient's face when he's all healed that it becomes a masterpiece. And so think about that. When you're in the middle of something, it's never going to look like a masterpiece. And that includes you. It includes anything you develop, right? That book is not going to look like a masterpiece inside Microsoft Word, right? And so when you're going through and you're actually creating, I have a line out there, today's line to live by. If you follow me on the social media sites, I put these out every morning at 7 a.m. And one of them is, the plagiarizer never sees the invisible work that makes the masterpiece, right? It isn't. Somebody will, I can almost say that with certainty, take this talk I'm giving today, copy the 7 points, and then go make a talk of their own, right? From the 7 points. But they never see all the work that went into creating the talk, or the book, or the paper, or the project, or the system, or the whatever. It certainly didn't happen this week, right? This is 55 years being manufactured and harnessed into 20 or 30 minutes to deliver it to you. But the plagiarizer can never see that. But one extension of that, yourself, remember, and I wrote this one out for you, as you want to create something in your life, and the masterpiece will never look like a masterpiece during the process. But for you, the work internally is what makes the masterpiece the masterpiece. It's the journey. For everybody else, it's the finished product at the snapshot at a moment in time, and maybe it lives forever or maybe it evolves. But a masterpiece can never be a masterpiece unless it benefits somebody else, and it cannot benefit somebody else unless the thing is breathing. So you need to be able to create it and get it out into this world. And if you're hemming and hawing and afraid about its receipt, you're going to have to get over that. So I want you to have a bias for action. And the tip is, if you can get your mindset wrapped around creating MVPs, minimum viable prototypes or minimum viable products, whatever it is that you want to call this, but spend the least amount of time and the least amount of money getting something livable and breathable out into this world. Now, it could be a training course like I give to you, or a talk, or it could be a white paper you write, or it could be a process that your team uses. But I always say you can't scale version 0, but you can scale the heck out of version 1.0. Okay, I have things out there, 4 years old, they're still in version 1.0. And I have some things that are in version 1.3, and some 2.0, and some that are in version 15.7. So, but this bias for action will keep you in motion, and what else will this do? It'll give you momentum, right? And once things are produced, it's going to make you happy, and you can work with it. And you won't know if it's a masterpiece until you get it living and breathing. And what'll happen is the people who are using it will help you make it a better masterpiece, and they'll get value out of it. Ed Duncan, you may have covered this, but how do you recommend to get past the tendency to undervalue your own story or experiences? I always say that whenever I am talking with you all, Thursday Live Office Hours, shooting a video for you, clipping a video, whatever it is, before I do anything, I remind myself, what's it like not to know what I know? That's really hard. It's really hard. But it's a lot easier when you pause and you remind yourself to do that, right? Okay. I couldn't remember the last time I didn't know how to job search. I couldn't remember the last time I didn't know how to package up a speech. Right? Like, I can't remember that, right? So I have to think back. Would this make sense? So when you, hold on, sorry. I'm looking back at your question. When you look at your own experience, the value, remember this, the value is in the lesson, okay? So don't think about the value to you. Think about the value to them, okay? And you will never undervalue yourself, ever. The reason, okay, people, all right, Stacy, 12:59. Remember this. The reason we undervalue ourselves is because we're not paying attention or attaching the right meaning to the things that we're going through. But when we do go through them, we have our own set of standards, right, of what this means to us. You need to think about what it means to them, to the rest of the world. Because we all walk around in our own heads, right, all day long. It's like, what does it mean to me? Well, I had about 80 things happen to me this morning that didn't mean a ton to me, but I bet mean a ton to you. And you know what? I'm only feeling bad about that I don't have my camera sitting there so I could just rip off 40 videos for you and sprinkle them out there. Okay, but I know that they'd be valuable to you, even though they're just part of my day. You know, where I put my keys, that's valuable to you. You know the menu board that's got all the meals on it? I do that automatically. It's like automatic. That'd be valuable to you. Do you know that I'm able to get up at a certain time each day and do something within the next 300 seconds automatically? Do you know how I do that? It's automatic to me, but I bet it would be really valuable to you. Every single thing that you do in your life is valuable to someone. The problem is we're not looking at the someone's perspective, or we're not looking for the someone to begin with, okay? So the easiest way not to undervalue what you do is to not think about it in terms of you, but to think about it in terms of them. You'll get there fast. And when you have that perspective, Like, my biggest problem every day is I don't have enough minutes in the day to tell you everything I want to tell you. Right? And it's true for all of you too. It's true for all of you too. There are people out there that need you to do what you ache to do. There are people out there that need to know how you live, what you do, your good habits, your good techniques, little things you've discovered, better routes in traffic. Anything is valuable to someone. Find the someone and share. I hope that helps. I want you to become an MVP by creating many MVPs. And if you don't know what I'm not going to leave you hanging there. I'm going to tell you what this is. Well, this up top is the most valuable player. This down here, these MVPs are minimum viable prototypes or minimum viable products. What do I mean? I want you to spend the least amount of time and the least amount of money building something that is a workable product. It could be something, it could be a mini step or it could be a full step. But a lot of us, we spend way too much time hemming and hawing and trying to make stuff perfect. I need this to register with you, okay? People, everything is perfect in the PowerPoint presentation. Okay? That 100-page strategy document that you prepared so eloquently in the Word document is perfect, right? The Excel spreadsheet, all the numbers tidy up real nice. Everything looks great, right? But real life is not Microsoft Office, okay? The product itself, it doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be breathing. Okay, it needs to be breathing because it has to have some life in it. Get it up, get it moving. You can build the muscles later. See how the customer reacts to it. See how your team members react to it. See whether your boss likes it and wants to put it in play or the management team likes it. You can always improve it later, but you can't improve it if it isn't breathing. Okay, so you've got to have this mindset. How do I get to a usable prototype or a usable product? How do I engineer it? And I'm using the word metaphorically, right? How do I create it fast and inexpensive so I could get it working and up and running? Doug, favorite quote of the day. Smart goals are the dumbest goals ever. They are. People. Okay, wait. Don't get me wrong. Okay. There is nothing about achieving goals that matters. Okay, smart goals are designed to be achieved. Okay, get where I'm going with this. Goals are about enhancing enjoyment of what you love and transforming you to become the person that you are capable of being because you walk around with yourself every day believing you can. Okay, smart goals, those attainable goals, have a life system. You don't need that, okay? So I want you to go big. I want you to have gigantic goals, and I guarantee you, if it matters enough to you, set it high and you will stick with it, okay? Regardless of the obstacle. You are never more at risk of throwing in the towel than at the first stumble, okay? I'd rather you have a big goal that's way out there in the future that gives you a chance to work it and grow over time. Smart goals are specific. That's the outcome nature of them, okay, which I don't love. Now, measurable, that's fine. You can track stuff, but attainable, that's what happens when you are here and the goal is here. This is a SMART goal. This is an Andy goal. SMART goal, Andy goal, okay? That's what I mean. So, when you might say, well, Andy, then if I set the goal way up here, and what if I don't achieve it? I don't care. I need you to have the perspective that it's the working toward this. Then I want you to reflect and look at that you're up here, not down here. I don't care if you check this thing off your list. Okay? It's not about checking this off your list. It's about working toward that. Okay? That's what you got. You got to rethink the way you think about goals. Smart goals are dumb. I guarantee you, nobody who has made... Do you think Elon Musk has smart goals? Right? Do you think Warren Buffett has smart goals? Bill Gates? Do you think Steve Jobs had smart goals? I guarantee you they did not. Okay? Anybody who achieves anything major does not use SMART goals to do it. They use insane, nutty things that people laugh at them until they do it. Right? And another one of my quotes, right? People laugh, but those people that are laughing, they get a lot of nourishment in the wakes of big dreamers. So that's how you got to think about that. Let's talk about outcomes and how people look at things. I say, although the expression sounds different in my head, then I'm going to give it to you, but you're going to get the gist. Short timers, they focus on wins. Long timers, they study their plans. What do I mean? Short timers, people who quit. They focus on winning. They focus on the outcomes. People who are mainstays, who can last, they have a plan. And so what's the difference? Well, I want you to think about fear and worry here. Short timers, people who quit early, quitters, people, right, they're going to lose, right? What happens? They're so worried about a victory right out of the gate. You are never more at risk of throwing in the towel than at the first stumble. Okay, so a short timer is very focused on winning early. And if they don't win, they get discouraged, they throw in the towel, and they quit. That's what happens, right? As if their expectations should be met. As if somebody with no experience who wants to try something that's new to them should immediately succeed. Believe me, if you are fortunate enough to have good success early on, then I think you really need to look at how you're going about doing what you're doing, because that success likely won't last if you're going to shoot really big. But that's for another day. Long timers, they tend to look at the plan, and everything that they do is done within the context of some kind of strategy that has plans along the way. They fall in love with the planning process, not the designated plan itself, because as they get into the process, they look at, based on what they're learning, which puzzle piece of my plan is this? It's just a step. Okay, now I have experience with that. Now I understand that. It might not have turned out how I would have liked, but it's just a step in the overall process. And once they get more so I think planning is such a silly thing, right? Like, I have a plan and I'm going to stick to it. That's about the dumbest thing in the world that you can do, because plans are built based on what? Your own experience of something you did previously, or somebody else's experience that they've shared with you, and now you put a plan together. Except what? The moment you take your first step, you now know more than you did before you started the plan. Why would you not be comfortable altering that plan, recognizing the experiences that you're gaining and the data you're gaining are helping you put together a better plan? I'm not talking about, oh, that didn't work, I'm out, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about keeping the same plan within the strategy that you designed for your life, for yourself, for your project, for your whatever. Okay, so keep that in mind here. And the tip here that I want to pull forward for you is, put the plan together, put the strategy together, put the plan together. Here's another one of my lines. Big plans, tiny steps, fulfills dreams. Big plans means I'm going to shoot big. Go big. Put the puzzle pieces in place as you take your steps forward. This is what's going to get you to where you want to go. Your fears are going to dissipate the more knowledge you gain about how aligned the plan is. Okay, so make sure that is part of your life. Thinking about like just some great times in my life, and like things that I think about the way I live my life now, and we're all in this weird place with the pandemic, and it's really changed things. And I know some of you are working in jobs that you don't enjoy and you want to job search. Some of you are in careers that you don't enjoy and you want to change them. Some of you have been displaced or furloughed or let go outright or whatever. And I think about, because I get these questions a lot. I get them in the system. I get them from the boot campers. I get them from people in the programs. And people say, well, how do I find the time to do this? How am I going to make that happen? And I was talking to one of my high school buddies the other day, and then this story kind of popped into my head. When I was 14, so literally like 40 years ago, and I think about when somebody asks me, well, how do I do that? I don't have any time. When can I job search? How can I learn how to change careers? I want to open up a business and all that good stuff. And this is what's now recently been going through my head. When I was 14, I just turned 14, and I was just going into high school. I turned 14 like right on the first day or something. It's like probably like my birthday. I'm going to school, and before we go to school, we get the schedule. And I went to this parochial all boys high school, and a lot of type A's. There was like 365 kids that started and only 244 finished. So 1 out of 3 kids couldn't make it through 4 years to graduate from this high school. There was like 1,000 boys in the school at the time. And so I get my schedule, and it's like 02 to 08, 02 period to 08 period. And 2 of those periods, one was gym and one was lunch. So I had 5 classes. I was like, 02, what the heck is this 02 thing? And so I go to school. I'm there for about a week or so. And probably like right after Labor Day, I was waiting for a buddy of mine. I had a few minutes to kill, and I happened to be on the floor where the principal's office was. So I meander into the principal's office, and I walk in there, and I said to this guy, I said, hey, I got a question. He says, hey, young man, I'm happy to help you. So my name's Andy. I'm a freshman. I got a question about, I got my schedule here, and this 02 period where I show up for school starts at 8:48. I have no idea why it started at 8:48. Maybe they needed 2 minutes of roll call or something. But what's 01? Like, why doesn't it start at 01? And the guy says to me, oh, well, that's for there are classes that happen in the first period. I said, well, how come I don't have one? He says, well, those are like the extra classes, like the advanced classes that kids will take. So advanced classes, what do you mean? He says, well, like the really ambitious kids, they like to take this extra chemistry or biology or these other classes that we don't normally offer during the regular hours. I said, can anyone take those? He says, yeah. I said, well, can I take those? He says, well, sure, if you want to sign up, and next semester you can start. So now the hamster's running, right? Like now I'm moving. So now I'm thinking, well, the ambitious kids show up at 8 o'clock for the 01 period. I says, hey, I have another question. He says, sure. I says, is there a 0 period? Like, is there are there classes before the first period? He says, well, no, there's no teachers. Nobody comes to the school, and right, there's no classes. I said, well, how early is the school open? He says, well, usually the facility guy gets here about 5:30 or 5:45, and then he opens the building, and some of the swimmers come because they have swim practice in the morning. I said, can anybody come in the building? He says, sure. I says, well, can I do anything I want? Is the weight room open, like the strength training room open? He says, yes. How about the basketball court? He says, yeah. I says, there's a batting cage in the gym that's on the edge of can I use the batting cage? Because, I'm going to try out for the baseball team. Yeah, sure, if you can get somebody to feed you the balls, and it's like, don't worry, I can get somebody to come. So let me get this straight. I can get in this school at 6 o'clock. I could strength train. I could run up and down the basketball court. I could hit baseballs. I could shower, take an extra class, and then everybody else starts? He says, that's right. I said, I'll see you tomorrow. He says, well, I'm not going to be here. It says, I know it was a figure of speech. I don't expect I'll see many people here at 6 o'clock. So I go home. I said to my mother, hey, Ma, great news. I'm going to take an extra class at school. It's at 8 o'clock. I could take it. She says, oh, that's great, honey. I said, Ma, that's not even the best part. You get to get up at 5:30 and take me to school in the morning so I could work out there. She says, well, really? Well, why not after school? I said, well, Ma, silly. Don't be silly. That's for homework. You get what I'm saying? 6 a.m., that's when you look. 6 p.m., that's when you look. Right? That's when you figure it out. And you're never, the advancement never happens. The changes never occur between 8 and 5 or 8 and 2:20 or whenever it is. You want that extra stuff, you got to do the extra stuff. And that's how life will always be. It's not going to happen during 9 to 5. It's not going to happen in the regular hours when everybody is doing whatever it is that they are trying to do. If you want to make those changes, that's what it means. So Saturdays, Sundays, nights, weekends, that's when it happens. And I know you didn't need to teach me that, but I was thinking about this the other day about like, what really do I go through now? And when anybody asks me that, that's what I think. I think that you need to put the effort in at the craziest of times. If you don't have what you want, if you didn't accomplish some goal you wanted to, there's only one thing you need to ask yourself is, what was I unwilling to give up? That's it, straight to the heart. There is no other question you need to ask yourself. And we all have our limits. Maybe I didn't want to give up dinners with my family. That's okay. Maybe I didn't want to give up social outings with my friends or my golf game on Saturday or whatever. All that's okay. Maybe you didn't want to go into debt. You didn't want to open up the business. You didn't want to try extra marketing. You didn't want to, whatever it is. But there will be something that stopped you, that you imposed on yourself, that you were unwilling to do. And so, when Ashley was asking me about disappointment and I was talking about expectations, that's all you need to do is where did the buck stop? Where was that self-imposed limit that I put on myself that prevented me from getting what I wanted? Just ask yourself that. That's some cold, hard truth. It really is. So anybody who hasn't accomplished what they want, that's the reason. You know what the reason is. It isn't because the market crashed. It isn't because your boss fired you. It isn't because of any of that. There was something you were unwilling to do. What was that? And then decide if you want it bad enough. Decide if you could tackle it smarter. Decide if you could just knock the wall over. Decide if you can keep practicing. Believe me, it's the truth. I want to tell you guys a little story. And because Saul asked about the zebra, I want you to remember this. Okay, zebras. When you guys are in interviews, you've got to remember the biases that you're fighting. And so think about whenever you're interacting with someone, they look at you, doesn't matter, marketing, sales, whether you're in a job interview, whether you're pitching something, and they look at you and their opinions are instantly formed before you open your mouth. And as you start to open your mouth, and all of a sudden it's like, well, I've heard this before. Where does that come from? So let me tell you how you need to think. I want you to remember this story, what I'm about to tell you. And I thought of this yesterday, and the zebra thing I went through my mind, and this is what I want to tell you. And Saul, thanks for mentioning this. So it gives me a segue to share it. I live in the United States, okay? I'm in the Chicagoland area. I live in this wonderful suburb called Long Grove. I'm far enough northwest that where I live, there are wonderful homes and there are farms. And when I go out, I got the chickens, right? We got the dogs and the beautiful birds that I never could see in the city of Chicago. And there's the goats that are literally around the corner. And I'm out for my run the other day. I go out on my corner. I'm running up and down this very hilly street. It's got cars, but it's not pretty desolate. But anyway, I'm running, and I run past the horse farm. And then if I just stood on my corner, right, just 150 yards outside my door, and I start to hear hoofs, like the gallops, right, the hoof beats. I do not technically rule out the small possibility that it's a zebra, but I'm thinking horses, right? Because of my surroundings and where I live. Now, if I'm in Africa, for example, that's a totally different thing. I might be thinking zebras. That's what happens to you guys when you go into a job interview and they look at your resume and they think, oh, so-and-so from that kind of company, so-and-so that's only 25, so-and-so that's been, working with that software product, okay? That's what they're thinking. They're thinking horses. You need to show them why you're a zebra, all right? And because that's what they want to hire, right? That's what they want to hire. How do you make yourself a zebra? You go watch my interview videos. But you get what I'm saying. You need to be thinking that before you walk in, okay? Otherwise, they're thinking horses, right? So hang on to that. Sal, thanks for that. I just thought of that yesterday. I'm like, that's a pretty good analogy, right? I would think horses, not zebras. That's what happens when you walk into an interview. That's what happens when you walk into a sales pitch. That's what's going through their mind. I heard this before, right? All right, zebras. Remember that one. I want to cap this off with a quick story. When COVID hit, and I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, people are going to be home. Zoom stock, Amazon. They're going to be getting everything delivered. You don't just buy Amazon stock. You look at the Echoes. I go and I buy every cardboard box stock I can. Who makes paper? Who makes the stuff that Amazon needs? That's an Echo, right? You need to look beyond 2 feet in front of you. All right, and let me talk to you about Echoes. And I was thinking about how I wanted to end this talk, and I want to give you a story. Bear with me, it's maybe 5 minutes long, but I think it is a great cap on this, and it talks about Echoes, and it's part how-to, it's part motivational, and it's really, really about perspective. But I think it puts what I want you to do in a different light. Let's go back to March 19th, 2020. During that time, so 2 years ago, right now, middle of the month, about a week before I was going to give the talk on March 19th, which was a Thursday, I was sitting in that chair. Okay, I hope you can see it. I'm in a 4x3. And I was sitting in that chair. And unlike a lot of people, when I have ideas, I don't go to Google and I don't look stuff up. Just like, you know what? I mean, how many of you have turned your brain off completely because every friend, even your mom's phone number is in here and you don't remember it, right? So what do you do when you want to do something? You go to Google instead of actually thinking. Let me tell you about what I was actually thinking about. I decided I want to give a talk. I decided I wanted to tell you what industries are going to thrive. So the first thing that I did was I went back there, I grabbed a cup of coffee, I went back there, I sat in a chair, and I went room by room in my head in my house. Okay? Looked at the computer, Zoom stock's going up. Went into the kitchen, right? More cooking stuff, right? I go around the house. I get to the basement. And in the basement is where my wife and I have a number of things, but among them is our workout equipment, the treadmill, her Peloton, my bike setup, the pull-ups, the bands, the whole 9 yards. I'm thinking, home equipment, right? Okay. Then I'm thinking, all right, outside the health clubs. Health clubs are going to get smashed because people can't go to the health club. Okay. People can't go to the health club. People won't drive to the health club. People won't park at the health club, and so on and so forth. Then I'm thinking, I used to belong to this amazing health club. The reason I belonged to this amazing health club that was in downtown Chicago, I didn't live in downtown Chicago, but I worked in downtown Chicago. I used to go to the health club near my house in the morning. I would work out, shower, and get in my car and spend like an hour and a half sitting in my car trying to get to work because the traffic is awful, even though I lived, say, 25 miles away from my office. So I decide I'm going to join a health club downtown. Awesome health club. Every day I would get up, and at 4:45 I'd hop in my car, I would drive down to the health club, I'd get there by 5:15 or 5:20, right when the door opened, I'd walk in, I'd work out, grab the smoothie, grab the coffee, get in my car, drive over to my office, I'm at my desk by 8 o'clock. I'd go home. But on the weekends, I would go down there and I would work out in the morning on Saturdays and Sundays, and I would take longer. I'd grab breakfast, I'd get in my car, and then I'd come home. Different route, I'd take a different street. On the street that I would go on led me to a feeder ramp to get to the expressway to get home. But in this route, there was two things that were absolutely certain. Once I was about to get on the feeder ramp, there's a stoplight, and two absolute truths. I got caught by the light every single time. That's one. And the second thing was there's a homeless person who was there who would ask me for money. You know, they kind of would hold up the cardboard or they'd wear the cardboard box, right? I need food and that kind of stuff. So I always had cash in my pocket. So every time I would pull up to that light, I would roll down the window and I'd give him $5. $5 on Saturday, $5 on Sunday, all year long, except when Thanksgiving rolls around. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, what I would do is every week or a couple times a month, I would go to Target, I would stock up, I would buy all these gallon plastic Glad bags or whatever, and I would fill the shopping cart with everything that these homeless people could that I could think of that they could use, that I could fit in a bag. I mean, I would put baby powder and toothbrushes and toothpaste and soap and mittens and cash and whatever. And I would give 10 bags away on Saturday and 10 bags away on Sunday. And I did that for a month. Okay. So now, fast forward, it's 2020, but I don't belong to that health club anymore. And I don't drive down there because my wife and I in 2017 moved in this house. It doesn't make any sense. It's really far away. So I'm sitting in the chair, I'm running through my house mentally, and I'm thinking about all the stuff that's going to happen, and I start to think about the health clubs. Then I start to think about the street. Then I start to think about the homeless people. And I think, who's going to take care of them? Right? So a couple days later, the weekend hits, I go into the Target, I fill up the 20 bags, I go down, I drive all the way downtown, and I drive around until I can get 20 of these away. And I think about the echo. Would you think about something like that ever? And I will tell you, we are all connected first. Everything you do, cause and effect. What you do has a cause. What you say has a cause. What you don't do, don't say, has an effect. Your causes have an effect. It will ripple in places you will never visit, and you won't know. So the one thing that I really want you to do is I want you to think proactively about what you do and what effect it has on others. And I want you to think about, if you do something, do that before. If you do something, think about what effect could it have and reflect on it. And those, we're all moving at a breakneck pace. If you would slow down and just think about everything that's around you. I came up with 32 of those 36 industries without turning a computer on. And I'm telling you, you've got to slow down. You've got to force yourself to stop and think about what's going on around you, or how what you're doing affects everything around you. And you start thinking like that, and I guarantee you will start doing the right things that pay the dividends that you need to. And the last thing that I would say is, for the love of all that is holy, the next time you bitch or moan about something, I want you to think about this story and think about those homeless people and think about how good you got it.